The Galactic Discipline Academy stood in silent perfection, built on a neutral world. The Academy was known across the galaxy as the highest place of learning for military control. Alien cadets from dozens of species trained here. Tall ones, small ones, scaled, furred, armored, and mechanical. They all believed the same thing. Discipline was strength. Emotion was weakness. Every morning, the cadets marched in perfect lines. Their steps hit the ground at the exact same moment. No one spoke unless allowed. No one acted without command. The instructors watched from high platforms, their eyes cold and judging. Mistakes were rare. Mistakes were punished. The Academy was proud of this. Today was different. A transport ship landed on the far side of the training yard. The cadets paused, confused. No arrivals were scheduled during training hours. The ship door opened slowly. A single figure stepped out. He was human. He wore simple combat clothing, not polished armor. His boots were worn. His uniform looked old, like it had seen many battles. His hair was messy. His face was tired. This was Elias Ward. The cadets stared. Whispers spread through the lines. A human? They are emotional. They lack discipline. Why is he here? The instructors raised a clawed hand. Silence returned instantly. Elias walked forward alone. No guards. No weapons in his hands. He stopped in front of thousands of alien cadets. He did not salute. He simply stood there. The head instructor spoke. This is Elias Ward of Earth. He has been invited to observe our training methods. Observe. That word made the cadets relax. He was not here to teach, just to watch. Good. Elias nodded once. He said nothing. Training resumed. The cadets moved into combat drills. Perfect formations. Perfect timing. Their movements were smooth, precise, and calm. Energy weapons fired in exact patterns. Defensive shields rose and fell together. Every cadet reacted without hesitation. It was beautiful. The instructors watched proudly. Elias watched quietly. Hours passed. The drills ended. The cadets stood tall, waiting for praise. The head instructor turned toward Elias. Human, the instructor said, what do you think of our discipline? All eyes turned to him. Elias looked at the cadets. He looked at their clean armor, their calm faces, their controlled breathing. Then he spoke. You are disciplined, he said. The cadets felt proud. But, Elias continued, you would all die in real war. Silence slammed into the yard like a shock wave. Some cadets hissed. Others growled. A few laughed, thinking it was a joke. The head instructor's eyes narrowed. Explain, the instructor demanded. Elias did not raise his voice. You train for control, he said. Your enemy will not. The cadets shifted uncomfortably. Elias walked slowly between the lines. He did not fear them. You move when told. You fire when ordered. You stop when rules say stop, he continued. Real enemies do not follow rules. One cadet stepped forward, a tall, armored alien with glowing eyes. Our discipline makes us superior, the cadet said confidently. Emotion causes mistakes. Elias stopped in front of him. Emotion causes mistakes, Elias agreed, but it also creates survival. The cadet looked confused. Elias pointed at the training field. You have never trained while tired, he said. You have never trained while afraid. You have never trained while losing. The yard was silent. The instructor interrupted sharply. You are here to observe. Human, not insult. Elias nodded again. Then observe I will, he said. The next day, the academy allowed Elias to watch a special drill. One meant to show absolute control. The cadets entered the field. Targets appeared. Everything went exactly as planned. Then Elias raised one hand. Change the scenario, he said. The instructors hesitated, then allowed it. The targets moved faster. Attack angles changed. The cadets adjusted calmly. Elias raised his hand again. Remove command signals. The cadets froze. No signals meant no orders. Some cadets hesitated. Others waited. Precious seconds passed. The targets fired. Several cadets were hit in the simulation. Shock spread through the ranks. Elias lowered his hand. In war, he said, leaders die. Signals fail. Plans break. The instructors said nothing. That night, the cadets whispered in their rest chambers. Some were angry. Some were confused. Some were afraid. Why did the humans' words feel true? On the third day, Elias was finally allowed to speak to the cadets directly. He stood before them without armor. I am not here to teach discipline, he said. You already have that. He looked around slowly. I am here to teach you why discipline is not enough. The instructors watched closely. The cadets listened, despite themselves. Elias continued. War is chaos, he said. War is noise, fear, loss, and pain. You cannot control war, he added. You can only survive it. The academy had never heard such words spoken aloud. As Elias stepped back, a warning siren echoed faintly in the distance. No one noticed. Yet, the perfect academy was about to learn something new, and it would not be clean. The warning siren stopped as suddenly as it had begun. Most cadets ignored it. The academy alarms tested themselves often. Order always returned. Control always won. But Elias Ward did not ignore it. He stood alone on the observation platform, looking toward the outer defense wall. His eyes stayed there longer than needed. The instructors noticed. Another test, one instructor said calmly. Nothing more. Elias said nothing. Training continued. That day, Elias was finally given permission to teach one session. Just one. The instructors believed it would prove their academy was superior. The cadets gathered inside a massive training chamber. Clean metal walls. Perfect lighting. No dust. No noise. Elias stood in the center. He did not bring weapons. Instead, he brought images. Old human battle recordings filled the air. Broken cities. Smoke. Soldiers moving through rubble. Some wounded. Some scared. Some angry. The cadets watched silently. These soldiers are undisciplined, one cadet said. They move without order. Elias nodded. Yes, he said, and they survived. The cadets did not understand. Elias changed the image. A human unit ambushed from all sides. Communication lost. No clear leader. They should retreat. An alien cadet said. They cannot, Elias replied. There's nowhere to go. The image continued. The humans adapted. They used the terrain. They changed roles. Injured soldiers still fought. They are emotional, another cadet said. Fear is visible. Yes, Elias said again. Fear tells them they're alive. The instructors watched closely now. Begin the exercise, the head instructor ordered. The cadets moved to the combat field. This time, Elias stood beside the control panel. The rules were simple. Survive. At first, the cadets did well. Their discipline kept them calm. Their movements were sharp. Then Elias pressed a button. The lights dimmed. No warning. The cadets hesitated. Targets appeared from unexpected angles. Sounds echoed. Fake explosions shook the floor. The cadets waited for orders. No orders came. Seconds passed. More cadets were eliminated. Why do they stop? Elias asked quietly. Because control requires command, an instructor replied. Elias nodded slowly. And war destroys command, he said. One cadet broke formation. He moved on instinct, covering another cadet. The instructors frowned. That is improper, one said. But the two cadets survived. More cadets began acting on instinct. Discipline cracked. Chaos spread. The drill ended. The chamber was silent. The instructors were displeased. You are encouraging disorder, the head instructor said sharply. Elias met his gaze. I am encouraging survival, he replied. That night, the cadets argued in their rest halls. Our training failed, one said. No, the rules changed unfairly, another replied. The human cheats, a third said. But a quiet cadet spoke softly. We died because we waited. No one answered him. The next day, Elias was restricted. No more changes. No more lessons. He was ordered to observe only. The academy returned to perfect drills. Still, something had changed. Cadets hesitated more often. Some thought instead of reacting. Others remembered the darkness, the noise. Control no longer felt safe. During a private session, the head instructor confronted Elias. "You weaken discipline," the instructor said. "Our methods have ruled the galaxy for centuries." Elias remained calm. "Yes," he said, "against enemies who fight the same way." The instructor's eyes narrowed. "You assume too much." Elias leaned forward slightly. "Then why do your outer defenses test alarms during my visit?" he asked. The instructor stiffened. "You noticed." "I felt it," Elias said. "War has a sound." Before the instructor could respond, the siren screamed again, this time louder. Red lights flashed. This was not a test. An unknown hostile force dropped out of hyperspace near the academy. Fast, silent, unpredictable. The academy's disciplined fleets moved into perfect formation and walked straight into an ambush. Inside the academy, cadets waited for instructions. None came. Command channels went dark. Fear spread. Elias moved. "Listen to me," he shouted. "Do not wait. Move. Adapt. Protect each other." Some cadets hesitated. Others followed. Those who followed survived the first wave. Those who waited did not. The academy shook as impacts hit the walls. The instructors finally understood. Discipline had failed, and the human was already fighting. The perfect academy was no longer perfect, and the lesson had only begun. The academy shook again. Metal walls trembled as another impact struck the outer defense ring. Dust fell from the ceiling. Emergency lights replaced the clean white glow. For the first time in its long history, the Galactic Discipline Academy felt fear. Inside the main command hall, instructors shouted orders. Systems failed. Screens went dark. Perfect lines of information collapsed into broken signals. The cadets stood frozen. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Yet nothing in their training matched reality. No clear commands. No perfect formations. No calm. Outside the academy, enemy craft moved without pattern. They did not follow standard attack lines. They split, regrouped, and struck again from new angles. "This is impossible," one instructor said. "They ignore all engagement logic." Elias Ward already knew the answer. "They are not here to fight clean," he said. "They are here to win." Another explosion echoed. A section of the training wing lost power. Cadets panicked. "Hold position," an instructor commanded. They obeyed. Moments later, the corridor collapsed. Several cadets were trapped. Elias ran toward the smoke. "Move," he shouted. "Don't wait, act." Some cadets followed him. Others stayed, waiting for official orders. Those who followed lived. Elias slid to a stop near the damaged corridor. Smoke filled the air. Visibility was low. A young alien cadet hesitated beside him. "There is no command," the cadet said. "We cannot proceed." Elias placed a hand on the wall. "Then you become command," he replied. The cadet stared at him. "I am not trained for that." Elias met his eyes. "No one ever is." Enemy drones burst through the smoke. Their movements were fast and strange. They adapted instantly. The cadets raised their weapons, waiting for synchronized signals. Elias fired first. The sound shocked them, but it worked. "Cover each other." Elias shouted, "Think, don't wait." Something changed. One cadet dragged an injured ally to safety. Another used debris as cover without instruction. Another flanked the drones using instinct, not formation. The drones were destroyed. Breathing hard, the cadets stared at what they had done. They had broken protocol and survived. Elsewhere in the academy, the disciplined defense lines were failing. Perfect formations were easy to predict. Enemy forces learned quickly and struck where discipline slowed reaction. Instructors began to panic. "This should not be happening," one said. Elias moved through the chaos, gathering cadets as he went. "Stay together," he said. "Protect the weak. Adapt." The cadets listened, not because he outranked them, but because he made sense. In the central hall, the head instructor finally faced the truth. He watched recordings of cadets under Elias's guidance, surviving longer than any disciplined unit. "Human," he said through the open channel. "What are you doing?" "Teaching war," Elias replied. Enemy forces breached the inner yard. This was the heart of the academy. Sacred ground. Cadets lined up instinctively. Elias stepped in front of them. "No lines," he said firmly. "They expect lines." The cadets hesitated. Then they broke formation. They moved behind cover, changed angles, protected each other instead of positions. The enemy hesitated. For the first time, the attackers were confused. They had trained to fight discipline. They had not trained to fight humans. The academy defenses slowly stabilized, not because of control, but because of adaptation. After hours of fighting, the enemy finally retreated, not defeated, but unwilling to continue. Silence followed. The academy stood damaged, broken, changed. Cadets sat against walls, exhausted. Some were shaking. Some were silent. Elias walked among them. "You survived," he said. "Remember how?" The instructors gathered later in the command chamber. Their perfect academy lay scarred. The head instructor spoke slowly. "Our doctrine failed." No one argued. "You acted without discipline," the instructor said to Elias. Elias nodded. "Yes." "And yet," the instructor continued, "your methods save lives." Elias did not celebrate. "War doesn't reward perfection," he said. "It rewards endurance." The cadets listened from nearby. They had felt fear. They had felt anger. They had felt determination. And they were still alive. That night, the academy burned small fires across its once perfect grounds. Cadets no longer stood in clean lines. They sat together, talking, learning, understanding. The academy had trained discipline for centuries. But today, it learned something older, something human. War had entered the academy, and it refused to leave the same. Morning came slowly to the Galactic Discipline Academy. Smoke still rose from damaged buildings. Broken walls showed marks of battle. The once perfect ground was scarred and uneven. Cadets walked quietly through the ruins. No marching, no commands, no perfect lines. They had survived, but something inside them had changed. Elias Ward stood near the edge of the training yard. He watched engineers repair damaged systems. His face was calm, but his eyes were tired. Behind him, cadets gathered in small groups. Some spoke softly. Others said nothing at all. They were remembering. One young cadet stared at a cracked helmet in his hands. It belonged to a friend who did not survive the attack. The academy had taught him control, but not how to carry loss. The instructors met in the command chamber. For the first time, no one stood on the high platforms. They sat together, equal, uncertain. "Our response was slow," one instructor admitted. "Our formations were predictable," another said. "We lost cadets," a third whispered. Silence followed. The head instructor turned to Elias. "You broke our doctrine," he said, "and yet you saved lives." Elias did not argue. "War breaks doctrine first," he replied. Later that day, the instructors announced something unthinkable. All training was paused. The cadets gathered, confused. The head instructor spoke carefully. "We trained you for order," he said, "but we failed to prepare you for chaos." Eyes turned toward Elias. "We will learn," the instructor continued, "from the human." Some cadets welcomed this. Others did not. That afternoon, Elias began again, but differently. No drills. No weapons. He took the cadets to the damage yard. "Sit," he said. They sat on broken stone and metal. "War leaves marks," Elias said, "not just on buildings." He tapped his chest. "But here." The cadets listened. "You will feel fear again," he said. "You will feel anger. You will feel loss." A cadet raised a trembling hand. "Those feelings weaken us," the cadet said. Elias shook his head. "They remind you what you fight for." Some cadets looked away. Others nodded slowly. That night, A group of cadets approached Elias quietly. "We want to learn," one said, "but discipline was our identity." Elias answered gently. "Discipline is a tool," he said, "not a cage." The next days were difficult. Elias changed training completely. He removed schedules, changed goals mid-session, forced cadets to lead without warning. Some failed badly. Some froze. Some grew angry. Instructors almost stopped the sessions many times. But something else happened. Cadets began to speak up. They began to think aloud. They began to protect each other. They stopped waiting. One day, an instructor challenged Elias openly. "You teach chaos," the instructor said. Elias replied calmly. HFY. The instructor ordered a test. A simulated enemy attack. No rules. No signals. The cadets entered the field uncertain. Then they adapted. They moved fast. They covered each other. They changed plans when needed. The simulation ended. Casualties were low, lower than ever before. The instructors were silent. That night, Elias sat alone, watching the stars. The academy was changing, but at a cost. Some cadets struggled with emotion. Some doubted themselves. Some feared they were becoming too human. The head instructor joined Elias. "You have given them strength," the instructor said, "but also burden." Elias nodded. "That is war," he replied. Suddenly, a long-range message arrived. The enemy force had not retreated far. They were watching, learning. The head instructor stiffened. "They will return," he said. Elias did not look surprised. "They always do." The instructor looked at the academy. "We are not ready," he said quietly. Elias finally turned. "You are more ready than yesterday," he said. "And tomorrow more still." The instructor studied him. "Why do humans endure this?" he asked. "Why not choose peace?" Elias answered without hesitation. "Because peace is protected by those willing to fight for it." The academy lights dimmed as night settled. Cadets trained under the stars. Not in lines, but together. They laughed sometimes, argued sometimes, failed often, and learned constantly. The Galactic Discipline Academy was no longer perfect, but it was becoming something stronger, something real. And far away, in the dark of space, the enemy watched, preparing. The enemy returned sooner than expected. Long-range sensors detected movement at the edge of the system. Small signals at first, then many, too many. Inside the academy, alarms sounded again, but this time no one froze. Cadets moved on their own. They did not wait for perfect orders. They did not form clean lines. They checked weapons, helped each other, and moved defensive positions without panic. Elias Ward watched quietly. This time he did not shout. He listened. The head instructor stood beside him, tense but focused. "They are adapting," the instructor said. Elias nodded. "They are thinking," he replied. The enemy did not attack the same way. They spread out. They tested weak points. They tried to confuse the academy's defenses. In the past, discipline would have failed again. But now, cadets responded in small teams. When one plan failed, they changed it. When a leader fell, another stepped forward without fear. One young cadet hesitated as enemy fire struck near her position. Elias spoke calmly over the channel. "Breathe," he said. "Decide. Move." She did. Her team survived. The academy no longer fought like a machine. It fought like a living thing. In the command chamber, instructors watched the battle unfold. "They are breaking formation," one instructor said. "Yes," another replied. "And holding ground." The head instructor turned to Elias. "This is your way," he said. Elias shook his head. "No," he replied. "This is war's way." Enemy forces pushed closer. Some breached the outer wall again. This time, cadets countered fast. They used traps. They used terrain. They used surprise. The enemy slowed. Confusion spread among the attackers. They had studied the academy's old discipline. They had prepared for predictable order. They had not prepared for humans. Elias moved through the academy, checking positions, offering short advice. Protect each other. Don't chase. Think ahead. He did not command. He guided. The cadets made the choices. Hours passed. The enemy attack lost strength. Their signals became disorganized. Their movements slowed. Finally, the enemy pulled back again. This time, it was not a retreat. It was defeat. Silence filled the academy. Cadets stood still, waiting. Then someone laughed. Another cadet sat down, exhausted. Slowly, relief spread. They had won. Not because they were perfect, but because they endured. Later, the instructors gathered the cadets in the central yard. The damaged academy stood around them like a reminder. The head instructor stepped forward. "Today," he said, "we survived because you acted." He paused. "Not because you obeyed blindly, but because you chose." The cadets listened closely. The instructor turned toward Elias. "Human," he said, "you have changed this academy." Elias remained quiet. "You taught us discipline without life is empty," the instructor continued, "and life without choice is weak." The cadets looked at Elias with new respect, not admiration, understanding. That night, Elias prepared to leave. His transport ship waited quietly. Several cadets approached him. "You are leaving?" one asked. "Yes," Elias replied. "You could stay," another said. Elias smiled faintly. "No," he said. "You don't need me anymore." The head instructor joined them. "You have given us a future," he said. "How do we honor that?" Elias thought for a moment. "Teach the truth," he said. "War is not clean. Survival is earned." As Elias boarded the ship, cadets stood silently, not in formation, but together. The ship lifted off. Far away, news spread across the galaxy. The Galactic Discipline Academy had changed. Its graduates were different. They were disciplined but flexible, calm but emotional, controlled but alive. Other worlds noticed. Requests arrived. Human instructors were invited. Human doctrine was studied. Human endurance was respected. The galaxy learned something important. Humans did not love war. They understood it. And that understanding changed everything. As Elias's ship disappeared into the stars, the Academy lights shone brighter than before. Not perfect, but prepared. The final lesson was almost complete. Years passed after the battle at the Galactic Discipline Academy. The Academy still stood, but it was no longer silent. Where once there were perfect lines and cold commands, there was now movement, debate, and life. Cadets trained hard, but they trained aware. They trained knowing that war was not clean, and survival was never guaranteed. Across the galaxy, stories spread, not stories of destruction, stories of humans. Military leaders from distant systems studied battle data from the Academy. Again and again, the same conclusion appeared. Human-led units survived longer. Human-trained cadets adapted faster. Human doctrine worked when all others failed. The galaxy began to ask questions. Why were humans different? On a distant world, a council of alien leaders gathered. Their species had never lost a war, but they had never truly won one either. Every conflict ended in fragile peace. A recording from the Academy played in the chamber. It showed cadets under fire. No clear leader. No perfect order. Yet they survived. This breaks all known military logic, one leader said. Another replied quietly, "No, it follows human logic." The council requested a human representative. Elias Ward arrived weeks later. He stood alone before the council. Older now, more tired. "You changed the academy," one leader said. "Why?" Elias answered simply, "Because it was honest." The council leaned forward. "You teach emotion," another leader said. "Fear, anger, loss." "Yes," Elias replied. "These things destabilize societies," the leader argued. Elias met his gaze. "They also protect them." Silence followed. Elias continued. "You fear emotion because you cannot control it," he said. "Humans learned long ago that control is not survival." "Then what is?" the council asked. Elias paused. "Choice," he said. "The will to stand when order fails." The council dismissed him without answer. But the galaxy listened. Conflicts changed. Alien forces stopped relying on rigid plans. Cadets trained for uncertainty. Commanders allowed initiative. And wherever humans trained others, outcomes improved. Still, fear followed humanity. Not fear of violence. Fear of understanding. Humans knew what war cost. They carried it. At the academy, new cadets arrived every cycle. They learned discipline, but also something else. They learned that fear did not mean weakness. That loss did not mean failure. That survival was not shameful. The head instructor, now older, often walked the training grounds alone. He remembered the perfect academy, and he did not miss it. One day, a message arrived. A massive interstellar threat had appeared. Ancient, intelligent, unpredictable. The galaxy was afraid. They asked one question. Where are the humans? Elias Ward was already moving. He did not lead fleets. He did not command armies. He advised. He taught. And others listened. The war that followed was unlike any before. No clean lines. No fixed rules. The enemy adapted fast. So did humanity. Human units fell, but did not break. Alien allies panicked, but learned. Together, they endured. When the war finally ended, the galaxy stood changed forever, not united by power, united by survival. In the aftermath, historians wrote many records. They did not write that humans were the strongest. They wrote something else. Humans were willing to feel fear and move forward, willing to lose and keep fighting, willing to protect others at great cost. That frightened the galaxy more than any weapon. At the academy, a new inscription was carved into the main hall. Not a rule, not a command, a truth. Discipline builds order. Humanity survives chaos. Elias never returned to the academy, but his lesson remained. Every cadet knew his name. Every instructor taught his truth. And across the stars, when war began to whisper again, one thought echoed in every command chamber. If humans are involved, survival is possible. Not because humans love war, but because they understand what it demands. And they are willing to pay the price.